Hey Daily Boppers, what's up? I'm here tonight with Alyssa Lærke Eve, who recently had an interesting experience this weekend, and she's going to tell us a bit about it. I've got her here on Skype, so give me just a second to pull her up. Hi Alyssa, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. So, I hear you've had a bit of an interesting week. First off, just tell us a bit about what happened. Hey Daily Boppers, what's up? I'm here tonight with Alyssa Lærke Eve.
The first thing was I was sitting in my bedroom, and there were people banging on multiple windows. I dropped my phone. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
There were multiple people banging on my windows, my kitchen window, my bedroom window, and I was scared, so my first reaction was to call my mom, and then I let my dog out, who was a 110-pound lab, and I believe she chased them off. She was gone for about an hour, but first thing I saw when I walked out my door was "kill yourself" on my front door, and
Wow.
It was just awful. And for a few days, I dealt with that. Every time I walked out my door, it said "kill yourself," and I was outside, and I was petrified to travel much further than my parking lot. And when I did travel to look for my dog, I saw my car covered in hate speech with words like pedophile, kill yourself, tranny, go get it out, die bitch, and things like that. And it was awful.
Good God.
Um,
That's so, to me, it's so shocking. Wow. So the first thing that made you aware of it was you heard pounding on your window.
right.
What is that like to just be sitting there? Like, did you have any clue as to what might be going on, or how just what was that moment like?
Well, I definitely didn't assume that a hate crime was happening, but I was definitely scared. I didn't know what was going on, but my heart dropped to my stomach, and I was terrified. And when that moment of terror happens, my first action was to come off, and that's what I did.
Wow. Just I know some people would hear the bang on the window and go to check it. I just have to say, like, I mean, I don't know what, like, if that person had any, like, type of weapon with them or anything to do you, like, physical violence, but I'm just gonna say, first off, I'm so glad you didn't do that.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good lesson here to, if anyone transgender overhears banging on their window, seems like common sense, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, not to go to the window.
Right.
That seems so shocking to me. Like, does this seem typical or expected for the part of the country that you live in, or did it kind of take you by surprise?
It definitely took me by surprise. With the 23 years of living here, I've been out for 6 years, and never in my life have I experienced anything like this, other than people mumbling under their breath or a few awkward stares, but never did I ever even expect this to happen here.
Wow, that's just, I mean, that has to make it all the more frightening, really, I would think. Especially when you see, I mean, I've got pictures of the car available here, so I'm gonna switch over to these. We'll still have the audio, but we're gonna take a look at it. I mean, you can see where there it says "die, bitch, get out." You can see where it says "horror" and "die," and then on the front it says "kill yourself." Faggot, tranny, whore, all these misogynist, homophobic, and transphobic slurs, and it's just wow. It's so unbelievable to me to think that people like think that they can just do that to another human being. Have you what's the response of the local community been like to this? Like, because I mean, that's obviously that's out in front of your house. Like, what were the neighbors? Did the neighbors come out? Like, what's the response been like in the neighborhood?
Well, I did have a few papers come out, but the response in the neighborhood actually has been, I, I guess I could say I've been blessed, whatever you want to call it, but I've had a lot of people reach out to me, say that I didn't deserve this. And definitely have drowned out the hate in this situation, as far as the community is concerned. I've had a lot of nice people reach out to me.
Do you have a lot of friends in your neighborhood and in your area, like a lot of people who do know you and do support you?
Yeah, especially since I've lived here for my whole live known since before my transition.
That's just amazing. I mean, I feel like that's, I feel like any transgender person to have that support network is really kind of lucky in that way, even when something like this happens to you. And I'm really glad that you actually do have people around who care. But then the obvious question also becomes, someone did this, and whoever did this obviously, knew who you were. What does that even feel like, knowing that?
It definitely makes me scared. I'm very to my apartment at night. Um, I'm weary to answer my door. I mean, obviously, this person knows what I drive, where I live, which apartment I'm in, and that worries me a lot because, especially with these things happening in Orlando, with these bombings at Target bathrooms, with all of these murders going on this year, it puts me on edge because those situations have become real in my home life, and that definitely scares me.
I mean, I can definitely imagine where it would. I mean, I don't know what I would do personally in that situation, and I've been through my own fair share of physical violence and discrimination and things like that. Just seeing something that's so so forward and direct and so deliberate, but at the same time having that mystery of, like, not knowing who this is, who did this, how you can protect yourself. Speaking of, I mean, have you? I know that you said that you have a dog that you have who you did let out, as a means of self defense that night. Have you? Has this event prompted you to think about taking any additional measures as far as defending yourself, or do you have any additional measures in place to defend yourself? And if so, what kind of recommendations would you make? What kind of things would you have to say to trans people who may be watching about making sure that we are as safe as we can be as far as being able to defend ourselves from things like this?
Right. Well, definitely have taking some gun footage and having a gun on. That's definitely a process. Um, but also, I keep a bat underneath my bed. And another thing is the most powerful form of pepper spray is wasp spray. And you don't even have to be close to the person defending you to use it. It works up to 25 feet.
Wow.
And it is, I think it's $16 at your local Walmart, but it's more powerful than the pepper spray you can buy at a gun store, and it causes damage. And I feel like these things sort of make me feel a little bit safer.
Hmm.
But I would definitely recommend to any trans person to educate yourself on how to use these things because there are a lot of situations throughout the United States where your own personal weapons get used against you. So make sure you are educated on how to use your own form of protection.
Very good advice, in my opinion, definitely. So, and once again, just kind of coming back to the the kind of the fear that I would have personally in the situation of the unknown. I won't ask you to name names, but, like, being a person who seems to know people in the community pretty well around you, and still having this come as a surprise. Is there anyone who had kind of given any indication that they could be transphobic to the level of carrying out this act, or is there any kind of lead that someone may that someone may know who did this?
Well, with no names given, there has been a person bragging down at our local bar, um, and just saying that they did it. And actually, three people have reported this person to the local sheriff's department, and they still haven't investigated or questioned this person at all.
Okay, so hold up a minute, because first point of shock that someone thinks they can do this kind of shit and then go to the bar and brag about it to that many
Right.
people, and you're telling me that these people have in turn gone to the police and the police are not following this up?
Right. It definitely doesn't feel like I am a priority as a human being in this part of the state. Just feels like they want it to blow over.
That's, I mean, that goes beyond disappointing. That's sickening. But I
Yeah.
mean, I have to say that, like, I mean, I'm shocked in the fact that just thinking about this happening to any, think about this happening to the average person, like happening to a cis person, is shocking. And that's so often what we base our experiences off of, is what we would expect to happen to the people who we view as the default of society. But really, as I think about it, and I think about even my own experiences with trying to go to the police when I was sexually assaulted, it almost isn't that surprising. I mean, it makes me feel as though society just really looks at us as transgender people, especially as transgender women, and just as it's as though they don't even see us as human. Is what it feels like to me. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to prod too much, but like, how has that response made you feel? That it looks like they're just hoping that this is going to go away.
I honestly, I describe it as I feel like a black woman in the 1950s. Um, I feel like I have no rights, and I feel like I have no protection, and it wouldn't be considered anything unless I was murdered. And even then, it would just be another trans woman on the list.
I mean, that's really true. I think you nailed it right there. With we know that especially transgender women of color are murdered so frequently in the country. We had over 23 last year just in the United States, not even counting. I think there was a few hundred worldwide. And then this year we're up to, I think, 14 was the number I saw the other day. And like,
Yeah, already.
yeah, and it's like, first off, people aren't hearing about it. Second off, when people are hearing about it, they're misgendered, or just all the attempts are made to erase not only the person who was murdered and the fact that the murder happened, but the reason behind the murder and the reason behind the hate crimes, or even just the fact that they're hate crimes at all. I mean, we've still got the trans panic defense being used in pretty much every state except for California, where the defendant can literally just say, well, I found out she was trans, so I killed her, and that's enough to be acquitted of any charges. And so, I mean, even with something that severe, I guess it really shouldn't be all that shocking to see this lack of action. Almost, to me, I would venture to say, I honestly, from what I'm hearing of what's going on where you are, it would almost seem to me as though the police are being complicit in this, almost as though they are basically assisting the person to get away with this by not following up on the information they have. Um,
Right.
what's working with when you went to the police? Like, what's working with them been like? Like, are they taking this seriously at all? Have they decided that this is a hate crime or is not a hate crime? Have they looked for prints? Like, what all have they actually done?
Right. Well, no, they haven't even looked for prints, even though they said in the newspaper and in the news that they couldn't find any. But my objection to that was you didn't even look.
Oh my
And
god.
another thing about that is working with them doesn't feel like I'm a priority at all. They just keep saying they just don't have enough evidence to do anything with anybody. And it brings me back to things like Matthew Shepard, murdered brutally. And I'm not sure of the reasons of his murder, but the people who did it got away with it because he was gay, so that was a shock to them. So it was reason enough for them to murder another person. And that's why I feel on a much minor level, also on many severe levels, in many ways, I feel like it is completely illegal to murder a trans woman or a trans man in America because it is a shock to people. And because it is not something of the typical norm of the white heterosexual person in America, it is not a priority to anyone to solve these cases until a is gone. But in that case, it is not properly punished. It's not properly held to the law. And I feel like I'm really tired of these hate crimes being put on a different level. Like, we are all people, and we're all Americans, we're all human, and these things shouldn't be about, I'm sorry, you're not the norm, so we're going to put you down here on our list. That's not how things should work. And I'm trying to fight that. I've actually contacted Lambda Legal, but they say that there's not enough information to go off of, and I say that's the reason I'm calling you, is because the reason there's not enough information to go off of is because there was not enough information to look for. No one did their job. But if I was a white, heterosexual male, heterosexual woman, this would be treated completely differently.
I feel like that's definitely what we need from groups like Lambda Legal and the ACLU and other advocacy groups that we find ourselves going to when these situations are not being handled for us. Is, it's clear here to me, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing, it just seems like the police are willingly not doing their jobs. We actually spoke a little bit before the interview. You had mentioned that they said that they didn't check the car for prints because they said, well, if they were spray painting it, it's unlikely that they touched it, as opposed to being thorough. It seems to me that the least they could do is check for prints, because, I mean, in my opinion, I would think, if someone's spray painting a car, they're probably going to lean on it at some point. Maybe they may have tried to hit it or something at some point, and you basically, like you said, got aside from the fact that it wasn't given specifically to a member of the police, basically a confession from this guy. He's proud of it. He's bragging about it, and it sounds like you might even personally know who this person is, and yet there's not enough information to go off of. And I hear that, and to me, it's just like it just sounds so much like people do not want to help, like they actively want to assist this person getting away with this, being able to do other things. I mean, and that's a huge concern for me right there. As soon as I saw it, my first concern was, first off, I was like, well, thank God she's okay. It's just a car that can be dealt with. But I mean, it's gotta be frightening. Are you worried about something like this happening again? Are you worried about something worse?
Well, I like to tell myself that I feel like these people would be pretty stupid to come back, being that everyone in this town knows now what's going on. So I tell myself to make myself think that these people would be pretty fucking stupid to come back and do anything more. But at the same time, these people were already stupid enough to go through and do this and make my life hell for no reason. So yeah, I am on edge, and I feel like I'm not protected as far as the police are concerned. And I hate saying that, because every white American in America wants me to say the police are doing for me what they would do for anybody. But honestly, I don't think they get it. As a trans person, they don't really realize what it's like to be me, and not just I'm dressing up and going to work. That's brave. I am risking my life and my health by going outside of my door every single day. And knowing that someone was willing to do this in my small town makes me weary to think that someone else could do more, especially now that it's being covered by media. And it's definitely, I don't feel like as many people knew who I was or that I was trans before, and now it's definitely confirmed. And I feel like maybe the police are making me a bigger target for hate, more so than they are doing anything to protect me from more hate.
I mean, yeah, I can definitely see where you'd feel that way. I mean, I would say, talking to you now and from pictures I've seen of you before on Facebook and things like that, that you are very cis-passing in appearance. So, and there is a bit of privilege and protection in that if someone is cis-passing, if someone doesn't even just stop to think that you might be trans, how can they be violent against you for it? And now, like you're saying, it's entirely possible that there's people who are maybe even incredibly transphobic who just would have never known or thought. Especially like you said, there's already been other violence going on all over the country with the Target bathroom bomb and the massacre at Pulse in Orlando. I've been scared personally. I'm just gonna come out and say that I've been terrified that just it seems like the violence against us, if anything, as awareness is spreading, it's almost as though the violence is getting worse with that. And I suppose that makes sense to an extent. I mean, to me, it's like, we're living in a revolutionary time, and I feel like it's like, things are going to get better, but they're probably going to get a lot worse first.
Right.
And so I can definitely see where you can feel like you have a target painted on you now. At the same time, though, I definitely have seen. I was going through your Facebook page before we started. Wow! Before I looked at that, I had not seen how much media coverage, this event is getting. Does even though having the attention drawn to who you are, what you look like, the fact that you are transgender can feel like it paints a target on your back. Do you feel like there's also at the same time though any kind of any kind of sense of of protection that comes from the media notability and I guess sort of the fact that people kind of know who you are now and might be looking for this kind of thing to happen?
Right. I definitely feel like the only protection I have is from people that know me and have expressed their love to me. I, I I feel like what's sad is it's almost like a civil war scenario. The people are more willing to, and that's a hard concept to accept, but it feels very true. Um, I don't know what more to say about that. It's just, I don't feel like the people who are supposed to be standing up for the group are doing the job. People who are just supposed to be living their normal lives and enjoying their days in this country, those are the people standing up, fulfilling the empty space that the police and the government is leaving.
It's so horrible that we can't rely on that. What's supposed to be there is, as a public safety net to protect citizens, but it really just it has seemed to me so much ever since I've come out, and it seems like it's starting to really seem the same to you that we're not considered to be human beings by so many cis people, and it's like it's almost as though they're so blind a lot of times by their own privilege that they don't even realize that they're dehumanizing us. They don't even realize that they're glossing over horrible things. Like I don't know that we've mentioned this specifically yet or not, but I had seen a post on your page where, if I remember correctly, it said that the police are not even considering this to be a hate crime.
No, they're not considering it to be a hate crime because they said there's not enough evidence to prove what their intentions were.
But I mean,
with their words.
Look at this. Look at this. How can the intentions be less clear when someone literally sprays "kill yourself" on the front of your car and on your front door and on the back of your car too, and "die bitch, get out"? where is the lack of clarity here? How exactly is this not just crystal fucking clear? Pardon my French, but seriously?
Right. And that's, where I came across to the point where I was like, if the word nigger was painted on my car, would it be considered a hate crime then? Or would you still be like, no, we don't want that kind of coverage? Because the only hate crime that exists is those against white heterosexual cis people. And those are the issues that I feel like are coming alive nowadays, is the government really doesn't protect minorities.
It doesn't, and I mean, you see it with any minority. You see hate crimes against trans people being ignored. You see hate crimes against people of color, especially Black people, being ignored, even when it's being done by the police, especially when it's being done by the police. And it really is. I mean, at the same time, there's that it's really bad for any minority. I'm gonna just come out and say that I don't like comparing different kinds of oppressions, because of the fact that they're rooted in totally different biases. They're not really things which can be compared. But there seems to be an awareness. There seems to be at least an awareness in some situations that it's like, this is a slur. This word is harmful. It has all of this institutionalized violence and power backing it up that actually has they reinforce that violence. It carries a huge stigma with it. And then at the same time, it's like if there's a transphobic person, they hear someone say, "Oh, there's a tranny over there." I mean, that's just like that's painting the target. That's just instantly saying, "Oh, attack this person," and it puts in all of these myths and stereotypes of society that around us, which are just based on complete falsehoods that say things like that we're pedophiles or sexual deviants or otherwise going to destroy society or something like that. And when people hear those are all they think of, all the violence in my person, which are privileged groups, but they don't. I'm saying so. See, if I said something hierarchy or curiarchy, I guess this everyone's been. So people, when it comes to slurs, at times it does seem a bit more like people at least know that it's that's a slur. If they get told that's a slur, it seems less likely that they'll just outright deny it. I mean, there's still a lot of people who won't care and will just be racist fucks. But it seems to me so often when we come in and when we're making this awareness that it's hey, these words have this institutionalized hatred behind them. These are harmful words. Stop saying them. It's the response is get over it.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that is if these words cause kids to kill themselves, how are they not considered a hate speech?
Exactly.
How are they not considered something derogatory?
It's just to me it's so it goes beyond unbelievable, and it seems like there's continuous denial, and things like this happening. We see all of these horrible things happening. Not that bad. I mean, statistics. I mean, hell, every single one of us is a statistic on the violence against trans people, and yet people just continue denying it.
Sorry, I was just saying the thing about statistics is, when has anyone ever come to the door and interviewed me about what it's like to be trans in America? All these statistics. When was I ever questioned?
And I mean, yeah.
My opinion. You're getting this information.
Right? And I mean, if anything, the situation is even worse than a lot of times we see it being made to be in those statistics, just there's so just talking to all of the trans people I know locally, so somewhere I think probably in the range of like 30 trans people locally at least, and then I know more in online communities, and it's just everyone has these horror stories, and there's surveys that come out every year from places like the task force and things, but not all of us are taking those surveys, and when people are coming to ask us the questions, it's like a lot of times we're just so scared of facing additional violence that we don't speak up. I feel like a lot of times we kind of learn to be thankful it wasn't worse, which is horrible, and no one should ever have to learn that. But I feel like that's what we learn is to like just we end up being thankful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, when we should be demanding justice. Which I guess at the same time, I never fault anyone, for being thankful that being thankful that they're alive, being thankful that it's not worse. I never fault anyone for that, but we should be able to demand justice. The same way that a white cis heterosexual person can demand justice. It almost seems like you basically have a white cis heterosexual male really be able to demand justice.
No, not really.
Okay. I get distracted.
Yeah, that's my cat.
I thought so. Okay, I get distracted by cats so very easily. I did want to take a moment to move on to a bit more positive note. We just kind of got over all the shock of it. I hope that Lambda will come through for assistance from other advocacy groups which are available.
Yeah. Well, my friend did. But we ended up spray painting it to make a statement. But now, with the amount of money that was raised, I'm probably just going to be buying a new car. And using this one for pride parades, or donating it to someone in the LGBT community who doesn't have transportation. But yeah, the community definitely came together and made the situation better for me, which is great. I'm so grateful for everyone that donated and expressed their for me in my situation. But I also want to make this something more than just fixing my problems. I want it to be something that makes a change in how people react. Because for a long time, whenever I expressed my concerns before this incident, everyone just chalked it up to me overreacting because it wasn't happening here. And now, I'm like, does it still seem like an overreaction to you for me to be worried about my life, my stuff, and my health and mental stability? Obviously, this kind of thing can happen anywhere, and we need people to stand up and make a difference. Call your congressman, email your congressman, all of them. Email your senators. Go forth and speak, because they won't be able to ignore 10,000 voices. They may be able to ignore my one little measly voice, but if everyone stands forward to do something, they will have to listen and need to make an active change, not just support people on Facebook.
Very, 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 very wise and poignant words. I definitely feel. And it brings to mind, I want to kind of add to that a little bit. To me, it brings to mind the whole idea that, in a situation of oppression, it is impossible to remain neutral. You are either a victim, a villain, or an accomplice.
Right.
So when people there's a lot of casual support of the transgender community where people are like, I'm okay with trans people. There's tolerance. There's like, oh, I think they should be able to pee wherever they want, or I think they shouldn't have to deal with this. Oh, it's horrible that they have to deal with this. But then where's the action? When the shit hits the fan, where are a lot of people? And especially when it comes to things like, political action, something as little as who you're voting for, what their issues are, even as simple as like reporters being responsible and bringing up these issues as things are happening with candidates and things like that, and then people making the decision to allow human lives to matter more than more petty little things. Showing up to whenever transgender communities get together and put together organizations to educate people, and then no one shows up to be educated, or they their family member who they claim to support, but then when something is said, they don't actually stand up. There's that silence that is deafening, really. And I feel like we're getting so much of that from a lot of the country. We need people to speak up and people, because when we say, hey, this hurts us, this is wrong, people don't listen. But when a cis person stands up and says, hey, this hurts trans people, this is wrong, it's like, oh, well, that's one of us saying it, so we can listen to that.
The cis voice is much louder than the trans voice, and that's why I want people who say they support me to stand up and actually support me, because your silence is letting the enemy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to me, it's like just literally sitting there watching someone getting the shit beat out of them and saying, I care. You're still letting them get the shit beat out of them. And it's like, even in the analogy might not seem like it's perfect, because it's like, okay, well, if someone's getting the shit beat out of them, you might get hurt stepping in. I mean, isn't that something that we're supposed to do as compassionate human beings who care for each other, to take that risk to help each other? And also at the same time, it's like, there's ways that you can help without necessarily putting yourself on the line. And I feel like one of the things that people with privilege a lot of times forget is that they're not going to face the same violence for supporting us as we face by being us. They may take on some of that oppression, some of that violence, but it's not going to be the same level. And, whereas we're just not going to be listened to at all, they will at least somewhat be listened to. They may not always get through the whole time, all of the time, but they are going to have more of an impact just by having that privilege, that they're not the freaks, the disturbed, and all of these things that people want to say about us to put us down and ignore what we have to say and our rights to exist, really.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more questions for you, and then I'm going to let you get on with your evening. I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. So if you could say one thing to the perpetrator of this, what would it be?
I would want them to know that I don't hate them, but I hope that one day they find peace enough within themselves to know that who I am has nothing to do with who they are.
That's just breathtakingly beautiful. That is, and I hope that message will. It's so sad to see so many times that you're right. When we fight hate with hate, we get more hate. But a lot of times it seems like when we push back with love, at the same time, you always hope for the best, and you always hope that message gets through and that it strikes a chord of humanity somewhere. But it's so sad that so often it seems like it's not the case, and that just people will continue to do these horrible things. But I just have to say, it is so huge of you as a person to be put through that much terror that I know that this has caused for you, and be willing to put out that message of forgiveness. And my last question for you, before we go, is do you have any advice or other words that you'd just like to share in general with the transgender viewers, or actually, I mean, with the cis ally viewers as well, that you kind of gained from this experience, or just even in general from your experiences living life as a transgender woman?
Well, with anyone that supports or loves anyone best as can. I want them to know and remember that love and acceptance is the basis of our war. And we need that to come forth. Because like you said, fighting fire with fire doesn't get us anywhere. And most of the time, honestly, because we recognize the bad more than we do the good, most of the time it feels hopeless. But I want everyone to know there's always hope. And you have a community that loves you, whether that be online and 10,000 miles away from you. There is someone in this world that understands you and loves you and wants the best for you. And never give up, never surrender. Keep fighting because you are worth it.
It's such a powerful message, and it's one that I really feel like so many of us need to hear. We can feel so alone when there's so much violence going on around us, but we need to remember that we always have each other. And I'll definitely also, if you're interested in having any links to anything or anything put up where people can get in touch with you to offer their support, I'll grab that from you in chat after we get off today, and I'll put that in the description there. And I definitely want to encourage all of my viewers, any way that you can lend your support to any transgender person who goes through something like this, even if it's as little as just writing them a message to let them know that you care, it means the world. It really does. And so I encourage you to reach out, and even just don't wait. Don't wait for something like this to happen. Reach out to each other and let each other know that we're loved. Our community is not always free from, petty squabbles and little stupid things like that. And it can definitely, it can get a little bit lonely. So I feel like, don't wait for the violence to happen to let your trans brothers and sisters, non-binary siblings know that you love them and that you appreciate them and that you're there for them. And I guess that's really it for tonight. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I hope everything goes well with you, and I'll definitely be keeping up with this. You have a wonderful night, and be safe.
You too.
Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone so much for watching tonight. Like I said, this video is going to remain up on the channel after the live stream is concluded, and I will be putting in links where you can offer your support. As always, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, be yourself.